Good morning, friends. My name is VINAY KRISHNAN V. I'm from 4th Mexi and I'm talking about AI today. So, what if I told you that we're gonna be superhumans from another 10 years? Like, nobody wanna believe that. But nobody would have thought that cars could drive themselves or robots can play chess or any of these things. But it seems that these things are more than real these days. So, God only knows what's going to come in the next days. And uh, as the science people say and the technology people quietly warn, it seems that AI is one of the quite dangerous things that's going to come in our future because it has a lot of potential dangers. But anyways, let's talk about AI today. So let's begin with what basically AI is. Okay, so we might think that AI is a very complicated thing, and it is, but it has a lot of small applications in many other fields. Like our smartphones are in a lot of ways applicable to AI. The cars that we drive, the social media, the bank platforms, the video games that we play, and the CCTV coverage issues, and all of these things are packed with AI these days. But let's look at what really, how can we really define AI from a robot's perspective or a robot's perspective? So, in this picture, you can see that a robot is approaching a two-paved way. Now, let's say one road is rocky, another road is paved. Now, the robot has to look at two of these options, and this robot has to choose which option it has to choose. Obviously, it has to choose the paved one because that's the more comfortable, and it's also good in terms of the robot's ability to move. So here the robot has to do a lot of things. One is reasoning. It has to look at the things, and it has to observe, and it has to understand what the situation is from the data that's interpreted it through the sensor devices like cameras or other lidars or any other sensors that's present in the robot, all of which help the robot to sense these things. So the robot has to sense these things, and it has to choose between them and come to a logical reasoning and understand. Now there's another point that the robot has to continually do, that is generalized learning, and that's the aspect of machine learning part. So the robot has to collect data, and it has to understand this is the movement that it has to take, and it also has to understand that this information of choosing this thing has to be stored. So the next time it encounters the same situation, it can solve that problem. So ultimately, the robot is solving a problem. So it's problem solving, but with logic and reasoning, and it's also continually learning. Okay, so this is basically what we just said. It's like it adapts to certain situations, and it observes, and it tries to derive something from that and make a reason. Try to think. We want to say, so it can also think due to the algorithm that it's fed, and it can provide a solution, or it can take a solution, and it can bring about work or any sort of duty or any sort of decision making, which is basically work. So that's a solution. Now, as we talked about AI, but we cannot stop talking about AI without completely touching upon machine learning and deep learning. So some people are confused upon what's the difference between machine learning, deep learning, artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence is it's a complete package of the robotic learning and its applications and products and all. But when it comes to machine learning, it's the part that defines the learning process of the robot from various data that's fed into the robot, and the robot make predictions from that data that's fed into it. So it's that part of learning that robot reassures or it reconsults to make decisions and make conclusions about it. Now, what's deep learning? Deep learning is um, it's even more capsulated from machine learning, in a sense like it just takes the data and it takes the input output, and it kinds of detects the pattern that's in between them, and it kinds of observe the patterns, and it kind of make detailed, precise, accurate notings about the things. So deep learning is more like how a brain functions. Like, it's not about basically decision making, it's about deeply looking into each and everything and coming about some solutions. So that's embedded into machine learning, and that machine learning is embedded into AI. That gives us a whole picture of how AI works. Now, there's basically two categories of AI. One is weak AI and another one is strong AI. So what's the difference between them? So one is a weak AI would be a robot that can do some basic functions or that can repeat some functions for a long time. That would be a weak AI. And Alexa is also a weak AI, as displayed in the picture, because Alexa can take voice from the customer or it's the person who's speaking, but Alexa cannot make decisions, or Alexa cannot make observations and make intelligent decisions, as to say. So, but the strong AI would be robots in fictions, which we are not yet into, but there are some places where these kinds of robots are also developed. But it's kind of the robot that could be completely autonomous and can think and make decision and work. But it's like something that we see in the movie Enthren, but it's too much for too much advanced things that we have to perceive about. Okay, so that's about AI. So let's look at some examples of how AI could be. So one example that's recently happened in the AI world would be the introduction of virtual reality. But the introduction of virtual reality that has been recently announced by Mark Zuckerberg, and it's known as metaverse. So it seems like a great concept where you can just put in your glasses and or you can use a space to create a metaverse where you can meet the people you like virtually. So you really see the people in front of you, but they're not really there, but you perceive it in a virtual sense. So it happens within a glass that you put. Sometimes it says that you can create a space where it also does not need any technical assistance in your body. It can totally function. The room can function on its own. But it seems it's advancing in that way. But one defect about this thing is like it reduces physical human interaction, which we are already lacking in today's environment. So that's one addition of artificial intelligence. Now another one is Tesla cars. Everyone knows about Tesla cars. Tesla cars they have huge technologies. They have millions of sensors and IC technologies embedded into them. But the AI thing they have developed, that's the autopilot mode, which basically makes the car move from start to stop, non-stop, without any driver's assistance needed. And in the beginner stages, the beta stages had some faults, but it seems like Tesla is coming up with new additions and new updates, and it's working pretty fine. And they are using AI. They have more than 100 cameras in their one car, which makes the car detect all of these things and help the car move around. And it's done with the help of cameras, sensors, and programming. So there's not one more addition that's profoundly significant and worthy of mention. That's Neuralink by the company Neuralink. That's also backed up by Elon Musk. So this project is basically like this project is basically like um, uh, an operation, or a, you can see, a surgery that's done by a robot. They're designing a robot that can remove a piece of your skull in your head and replace it with a chip, and that chip basically is like um, Elon Musk calls it a Fitbit in your skull with a small wires. So it's like a Fitbit where it can observe your heart rate, blood pressure, and everything related to your health. And also it can take synapses from your brain. So it can also be connected to internet, I guess, and it can, you, with your brain synapses, you can tell the neural link to do decisions, or like if you want to do certain tasks outside, the neural link will connect and do that. So these things are pretty amazing. It's more like human beings are going to become a cyborg within another 10 years. But these are some things that's going on in the AI side of technology. So I hope you guys like the content of this video. Thank you and have a nice day.